Welcome back to A Toast to History. And as I promised, we have the father of our Constitution, James Madison. And it's his birthday today, and everybody deserves a toast on their birthday. So, pull up a bar stool, grab your favorite beverage, and let's go over the fourth President of the United States. This is going to be a good one.
Now that's good history.
James Madison was the fourth President of the United States, a member of the U.S. House of Representatives, a delegate to the Congress of the Confederation, a colonel in the Virginia militia for 1 year, and known as the father of our Constitution. Like Jefferson, Madison was a Virginian that ran on the Democrat-Republican ticket. Just like my boy Andrew Jackson I covered yesterday. If you haven't seen it, check out the video next. You can't talk about James Madison without discussing the War of 1812. This basically defines his presidency. Most people give him hell about it. 1812, he gets elected. A couple days on the job, already having problems. France and England are fighting again, and both sides want the United States aid. And a lot of the people want to say, hey, we should join the British and help them against the French. Others like, no, we should help the French against the British. Remember the Revolutionary War? So Madison's at a conundrum. What am I going to do? No other president before him has gone to war, because Washington said, stay out of it. So he's like, I kind of want to stay out of it. Until the British make kind of a messed up move. It's an act called impressment. No, they don't show over here in the nice fancy uniforms and kind of say, hey, look how tough we are. No. Impressment means they have one of the best navies in the world. They pull up to one of our ships, they board one of our ships, and they say that you have now all joined the British Navy. Thank you. And they will take our ship, they will take our troops, put them on their ships, and then they will put them into their navy. So now we've just lost our troops and our navy ship. What the hell? And that's what Madison's like. I can't let this go. So Madison goes to Congress and asks for a declaration of war. Now, Congress gives it to him. Yes, we have to do something. But we pretty much have like 20 ships. They have 1,000. They have one of the best armies in the world that just defeated Napoleon. If you know your history, you know he's kind of a big deal. And we barely have a militia. So, you're declaring war on Great Britain? What? A lot of people give him hell for this because we weren't ready for this. But what was he going to do? What would you do? They burned the White House to the ground. The only saving grace is Battle of New Orleans. We just talked about Andrew Jackson. He kind of saves us some grace at the end. Says, yeah, you know what? Yeah, it was a tie. You may have won the first few, but we won the last one. 2 years in the war, and we're not doing very well. Not at all. We're winning a battle here and there. We're saving face, but we're not doing very well. And then April of 1814, the British pull up into our harbor. They unload their ships, and they march on the White House. We send out our militia out there to stop them, to no avail. Now Madison, 1 year of experience before the Revolutionary War in the Virginia militia as a colonel, rides out there, takes control of the battle, and tries to rally the troops to push them back and get them out of our soil. Very courageous of you. I like the chutzpah, but it does not work. They overwhelm him and the troops are pushed out of Dodge. So, they have total access to the White House. They eat his dinner. They set fire to the White House. But in a nice little twist of fate, a huge storm comes up. This storm makes the British have to evacuate Washington, D.C. They get back on their ships and they head out to sea because of this huge storm, and they don't want to get caught up in it. Now, the storm with the rain and the wind kind of put the White House out. So even though there's a lot of damage, the structure is pretty much still intact and they're able to repair it. Not easily, but still able to be repaired and not have to be rebuilt. James Madison is the only president in U.S. history to face gunfire while leading troops. George Washington and him are the only two who've led troops into battle, but Washington never faced gunfire. They just saw him in the army and gave up. But he actually faced gunfire. You know, Madison, you really put the commander in commander-in-chief. I know you're 0-1, but it's a lot more than any other presidents have done. Now, if you ever want to do a head-to-head with founding fathers, you need to follow James Madison. Him and James Monroe, you know, our 5th president of the United States, they fought for the House of Representatives seat, the newly first House of Representatives. You have James Monroe versus James Madison, 2 founding fathers going at it. And James Madison wins in a landslide. But these guys became real good friends. They actually would walk with each other to debates. They're walking debates. We're about to debate each other, but we're walking, chilling, and being friendly. This man went head-to-head with Patrick Henry. You know that give me liberty or give me death? That guy? One of the best orators in Virginia. He goes head-to-head with him. And even though he's quiet and not the greatest speaker, every time Henry gives a point, he goes right back at, what about this? What about that? When you go into the Battle of the Founding Fathers, this is a continuation. Jefferson versus Madison, the number 3 president versus the number 4 president. Jefferson was tall, 6'2". James Madison was almost a foot shorter at 5'4". He is our shortest president to this date. Thomas Jefferson dressed as proper, tried to command the room without even saying a word with his confident demeanor. Madison was very soft-spoken. He wore all black. Eat your heart out, Johnny Cash. This man did it first. Madison was a fresh change from Jefferson because they were total opposites. And one thing, people overlooked him because of his shortness, because of his soft-spoken. And basically, he caught people off guard with, one, his very raunchy sense of humor. I'm not going to go into some of the things he said, but I'm sitting there, wow, James, my wife's in the room, man. Come on. Tone it down. Tone it down. This ain't a locker room. Come on, buddy. As we all know, behind every great man is a great woman. And James Madison can say he's had one of the greatest women in our history. She was a very young and vivacious woman. And since Jefferson did not have a first lady because his wife had passed away, she brought a new feminine touch to the White House and really made her husband, who, like I said, was very short and soft-spoken, made him really come alive, even with his raunchy humor, which I'm sure, knowing my wife, she probably rolled her eyes many a time. And she even stood up to the British just like her husband did. Even though her husband was at the front lines, she was still in the White House standing up to the British. He told her to keep all these documents and get as much out as you can. So, as she spied the British flag coming over the hill and the British troops are coming, she loaded up everything she could, even leaving some of her own personal items in order to get historical documents, including a full-size portrait of George Washington. It was screwed in the wall. They couldn't get it out. So she had them break the frame. She rolled it up and gave it to 2 men who they whisked away in the night to save this portrait because they knew the British were not happy with George Washington. He's the one who beat us. They were going to deprive and tear up this photo. And then she fought the storm that I talked about earlier and met up with James Madison at their predetermined location. Now that's a love you don't see in your romantic novels, is it? And some of the facts that you were not taught about James Madison. 1, James Madison was there at the beginning of our country. So, we didn't have much of a navy. We had 20 ships. So he proposed, instead of building more ships, to rent Portugal's navy. Good idea, though, but no. He helped establish the University of Virginia. He was on the board of trustees. He's one of your first Virginia Cavaliers right here. And then when he passed away, he donated his own personal library to the school. James Madison also appears on the $5,000 bill. Now, in trying to hunt one of these down, they are very hard to come by because they were discontinued in 1945. But if one of y'all have one and you'd like to donate it to the cause, I promise you an end credit. You and I would get along very well, James. And we have the James Madison Hangover experiment. This is a pretty cool dude. I'd party with this dude. Samuel Harrison, a newspaper reporter, and him were talking at the White House. And they were going over and wanting to experiment how many champagne glasses it would take to get a headache the next morning. Look at this guy. He's a funny dude. Now, they never really say if they tried it, but you can imagine how it went. You're 5'4", 100 pounds. This is not going to end in your favor. The Madisons really loved ice cream. Now, this time, it was a delicacy. You didn't have ice cream very often because you needed a freezer to keep it. You didn't have freezers back then. So basically, whatever you made, you had to eat that day. They had it at every White House function. Her favorite was oyster-flavored ice cream. I've tried lobster-flavored ice cream. It's not going to put vanilla or chocolate out of business. But next time you go to your local ice cream parlor, ask for a Madison special. And when they say, "What's a Madison special?" say, "Oyster, of course." I want to see what looks you guys get. And then comment below. I can't wait to hear them. James Madison was the father of our Constitution. But he was also the last member who signed the Constitution to die. But at the end, this great man here was greatly diminished. He was bedridden for the last few weeks of his life. He was taken care of by his niece. And then one day, on June 20th, 1836, as she's feeding him breakfast, he can't eat. His throat is swelled up. And she says, "Is something wrong, Uncle James?" "Nothing but a change of mind." Then he passes away. To James Madison, the father of our Constitution. This is a document that revolutionized the world. It is still the longest living, breathing Constitution in use today, and he was one of the main authors of it. To any man who runs toward the gunfire instead of away from it, especially when you're the President of the United States. This man might have been short in stature, but his hard work and determination made him one of the biggest men in the room. To James Madison, showing big things do come in small packages. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Now that's good history. I could have done a pretty good campaign for you. Mad for Madison. Last time I had lobster ice cream was in Bar Harbor, Maine. Oh, I'm sorry. Bahaba, Maine. So there you go, Maine. There you go, Bahaba. There's another thing for the menu. The Madison Special. Get your oyster flavor ice cream. And throw some chocolate chips in it.